Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scribo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today, we're going to look at the taroscopes for the sign of Sagittarius for the month of February 2022. That would include Sagittarius Sun, Sagittarius Moon, or Sagittarius Rising. So before we get to the tarot reading, I'd like to look at a little bit of astrology. Now, February is an interesting month in that there isn't a whole lot happening in February, say for the Pluto return of the US. So if you happen to live in the US, you'll see a lot of things happening, but it may not necessarily affect you personally unless you have a personal planet at that like 28th degree of the cardinal signs. That's probably the people who will be affected most. The cardinal signs are Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, and Libra. So you may have something there, especially as a Sag. You could have something, definitely have something in Capricorn in your chart, because you tend to, have your personal planets will either be in the sign of your sun or the sign before or after. So you could have that situation in your chart. So we have an interesting month. We have a new moon that starts right off on the 1st. Now that is the start of the Chinese calendar. It is the year of the water tiger, and so tigers are opportunistic and tigers are patient, and which of course is a little bit challenging, the patience part for the Sag. Fire signs in general have a little challenge with patience, but it is rewarded because you can see opportunities if you just quiet yourself down and wait for them to come into your sort of purview. So we have this new moon, and the new moon is in Aquarius. And for you, Sagittarius, hold on, let me grab I need to grab something here. I'll be right back. I found my cheat sheet. So for you, Sagittarius, this new moon happens in your 3rd house. The 3rd house is a house associated with your immediate environment. So walk out, if you want to know, Sagittarius, what the 3rd house is for you, walk out your front door and look around. Who are your neighbors? Where are you living? What are you seeing outside your front door? This new moon is about planting new seeds. In Aquarius, it could be planting seeds of friendship. Aquarius is very much a friendship sign. It is conjunct Saturn, and a couple of days later, the sun makes its official conjunction to Saturn on the 4th. That sort of brings a new synodic cycle. All of this happening in your 3rd house. So you will see, you will look outside your door and you will see new things. And it does take some effort to support this. Aquarius is an energy of humanitarianism. It's an energy of friendship. It's also an energy of sort of out of the box solutions. So if there's something that has been sort of niggling at you and you're like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? This new moon will actually aid you in figuring out how to perhaps solve a problem that just regular, normal, look in the encyclopedia. How do you fix this? Like you might have to go outside of the norm for that. We also have Mercury starting the month retrograde, but by the 3rd, it shifts, goes direct. It's happening in the sign of Capricorn, and for you, this is your 2nd house. So communications around your values, around money, around resources, around what's important to you will start to move forward, and then proceed as Mercury moves forward. We'll move back into Aquarius and move out of its shadow. So there's still a little confusion, but that should be in communication, that is, but that should be getting better as the month progresses. We do have a trine between Mars and Uranus that is occurring on the, let's see if I have it written here. I think it's the 8th. Hold on, let me look. Oh, I'm right. It's on the same day as we have the first quarter moon. The first quarter moon is a crisis in action moon. We planted the seed on the 1st, and by the 8th, we have this crisis in action, wanting to take an action on the seeds planted at that new moon. At the same time, we have Mars in Capricorn, making a trine to Uranus and Taurus. This is an energy of swift change, swift change. And for you, my Sagittarius friends, we are looking at your second house where Mars is, Mars moving through that second house. And we are looking at your sixth house, sixth house. Sixth house. So this can be work. This can be health. So there could be something very quickly happening that you need to some sort of quick change. So it could be a quick change in work situation that can bring money into, or resources to you, or you might have resources made available to you suddenly that you didn't expect. We could also have some sort of sudden health issue that you need to attend to. So that is a consideration. Of course, Uranus is in Taurus right now, Taurus being your house of health. This is a time where you need to be extraordinarily I don't want to say on alert, but if things happen, they can happen suddenly. So it's not the kind of thing, I've been in the healthcare field for over 30 years, and I can't tell you how many times a patient has said to me, well, I thought it would go away. If you have a symptom, go to the doctor. Okay. All right, what else is going? We have a full moon on the 16th. This is, of course, the halfway cycle of that synodic cycle, or that lunation cycle, I should say, that begin with the new moon. It's in, of course, the moon is in Leo. The sun is still in Aquarius. And the axis that is getting activated for you with this is your 9th house, where you have Leo, and your 3rd house where you have Aquarius. The 3rd and 9th houses are the axis of the mind. And so something can come to mind. You can have a realization. You can have something is revealed to you that can make you quite emotional, actually, in not necessarily in a bad way, in a like, oh, I knew it all along kind of way. It could be that as well. But your mind is activated, your beliefs, your ideas, something that maybe you hadn't seen before gets revealed to you, and you understand it as true, that perhaps you didn't understand before. On the same day as that full moon, we also have a conjunction between Venus and Mars. It occurs at 17 degrees of Capricorn. For most of you, that falls in your in that second house. This is an opportunity perhaps to have a new relationship when it comes to your resources. It could be a new relationship with your resources, or you could be, maybe you are having a relationship with somebody who can help you figure out how best to utilize your resources. Or your resourcefulness. Resources aren't just money. Resources is talents. Resources is ability. You could get into a new relationship with somebody who's going to help to foster your talents that you have already, so that you can actually make some money out of them, money with them. The future, on a certain extent, is entrepreneurial, as well as collective, right? It's working together I think, for the necessities, and then putting yourself out there in an entrepreneurial way to express your unique qualities and abilities that will aid the collective. That's really the future that I see. And perhaps I'm just too optimistic about that, but that's kind of what I see. What else is going on here? We do have the sun moving into Pisces on the 18th. And as the sun moves into Pisces, for you, Sagittarius, the sun will be moving into your fourth house, right? You're Sagittarius, your fourth house. Well, you have Jupiter there right now. Jupiter is just moved into your fourth house at the end of last year. And so you could be thinking of expanding your house, your home. Now we have the sun there. So an idea or a dream or a big picture, we have the sun there coming through that fourth house. And you can see whether it's an option for you. Like, oh, now that the sun is shining here, remember, I said, I was gonna say, remember I said this, but you wouldn't remember if you didn't see the Leo reading. The fourth house, the eighth house, and the 12th house are the water houses in the chart. And there's a depth to water, and we don't always see it. Even with the sun shining there, we don't always see what's at the bottom of things. But we have a better view when the sun is there. So there's this energy of illuminating perhaps what you hadn't seen before. Like you have this idea, right? Or this could even be, it doesn't have to be your home, it could be your family. You might have had this idea, the sun comes in and illuminates, and you find out whether you were correct or not about a situation. So that can happen as well. At the end of the month, we do have, let's see here. On the 23rd and the 24th, we have a supportive connection of Neptune to Venus and Mars. Venus and Mars are still moving together. So the sextile that occurs to Neptune, the first, it occurs to Mars first on the 23rd, and then Venus on the 24th. Supports humanitarian endeavor, out of the box solutions, the ability to raise all boats. This is really a nice energy, and an energy that we can utilize, and if we want, and it's nice to this is a really nice energy. And we've been through so many intense things that it's nice to have. This can even be an opportunity to really have some fun with your new relationships or with your old ones. And then on the 25th, we have Mars make a conjunction to Vesta in Capricorn. Actually, Vesta made a conjunction to Venus at the very beginning of the month. I didn't mention that. And then makes a conjunction to Mars at the end of the month. Vesta is what we devote ourselves to. And this can be an opportunity for us to evaluate, whether or not we want to devote ourselves to a particular relationship or not. And once you've made that decision, then things will grow from that. Okay, so that's what I want to say about Sagittarius. So let's take a look. I'm going to be using the Crow deck for Sag today. I love this deck. It's one of my newest ones, but it just really resonates with me. I picked it up in the best place to pick up a Crow deck, in the Pacific Northwest, where there's crows everywhere. And they're so funny. I love watching crows. They have such personalities. I like the way they walk. They walk like this. So like, I don't know, like that's not how they walk, but you know what I mean? It's like bing, 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 bing. Well, if you've seen a crow, you know what I'm talking about. Bing, bing, bing. Oh my God, am I having too much fun? Perhaps. Is there such a thing? Not according to Sagittarius. I love Sagittarius. I do. Like, if you want to just go out and have fun, call your Sagittarius friends. They're always up for a good adventure. Want to go on a road trip with somebody? Do with Thelma and Louise without the murder and the mayhem. Pick up your Sagittarius friend. Or chances are they'll pick you up because they do like to drive. They like to be in charge of the wheel, so to speak. Oh my goodness. I'm thinking of some adventures I went on with some of my Sagittarius people. I love them. And again, you don't have to be a Sag Sun. You can be a Sag Moon or a Sag Rising, or have a whole bunch of stuff in that Sagittarius house, that ninth house. And you'll kind of feel like a Sag. You'll be a Sag by proxy. Okay. Enough of that. Enough of I'm thinking of adventures. I mean, that's not a bad thing, right? All right. So here we start with the Three of Pentacles, the Three of Pentacles. So this is about work being done, good work, gathering what you need, creating something that is well made. Well, the Three of Pentacles really is about work that fulfills you, both emotionally and financially. So there's an energy of being really good at what you do. So that's how the energy for the month starts. What's crossing it is the Five of Pentacles. Now, of course, the Five of Pentacles in many decks is like destitution and the like, but it's not really so much in this deck. It really is about movement and change. And so the question maybe is, I'm really good at this. I'm doing this. I do this well. I really enjoy it. It really fulfills me. But there's all of this change in the environment. Will I be able to sustain myself doing what I love? At the root, you're at a crossroads. So you're at a point where you're trying to make a decision. You're trying to make a decision, but you are sort of, it's not really limbo. It's a state of balance and maybe stalemate. And I feel like we can see that this crow has something over his eyes. So it's not, you can't see what's ahead, but you can still sense what's ahead because you can still hear and you can still smell. And perhaps you need to use your other senses in order to make a decision. In the past, we have the Knight of Wands. This is a very Sagittarius card to me. This is like being on the road, doing your thing, being on adventures. You know, many places have been in lockdown for 2 years now, different levels of lockdown. This is not healthy for the Sagittarius. The Sagittarius does not like to be held down. So it's been challenging, right? But in the past, that's what you're used to. That's what you know, these adventures that you're able to go on. And in the sky, we have heartbreak. In the sky, we have heartbreak. So there's something that is breaking your heart, really. It could be the breakup of a relationship. It could be the loss of your old life because of the restraints and the restrictions that have been put on things. But there's definitely this sense, and there's also perhaps a sense of betrayal with that Three of Swords. But the Three of Swords does, there is some tears, there is some suffering with it, but it does bring a certain amount of freedom. It does bring a certain amount of freedom, and to a certain extent, it does break the stalemate. So there is a break coming in the stalemate, but it may initially feel painful. In the immediate future, we have the King of Swords. This is action that is taken after great consideration. This can be military, police. So you may have a run-in with that energy. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. It doesn't necessarily mean you're in trouble. It's just that there's a certain amount of laws. You can't freewheel this. What I'm saying is that you have to go by the rules for this month, which is not easy for Sag. But well, it's not that they don't respect the rules. They understand the rules, and it's not like they're thumbing the nose at the rules. That's definitely much more of an Aquarius energy than a Sag energy. But there is a certain amount of freedom, freedom loving aspects to Sagittarius that chafe a little bit at the rules. So know that as you move forward, you need to make sure that you've dotted your I's, you've crossed your T's, and to a certain extent, that new moon in Aquarius sort of talks about that, with it being conjunct Saturn. Saturn, to a certain extent, is the rule maker, and we can see here Saturn right at the top of that card. So there are certain things you can and cannot do. How it's seen from the outside, you do have the higher perspective here. And this is a perspective born through experience and trial and tribulation, but you are seeing it rightly. You are seeing it rightly. Let's see your domestic situation. Page of Pentacles. So there's this sense of, I don't know if there's a job that you're really good at that you, for some reason, have lost, or that are in the process of losing because of the changes that are happening within, the changes that are outside of your control. If that's the case for you, there is an opportunity at home for you to sort of plant a new seed of reinvention, perhaps, or entrepreneurialness, spiritness. I don't think that's a word. Anyway, entrepreneurialness, not a word. I made it up. But there is, and it is something new. So there's something new coming in for you to learn in your domestic situation, and it can be associated with work, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But it's a bit of a new adventure, but in a little bit of a different way than you're used to doing. It's not as freewheeling. It takes a little bit more homework. Hopes and fears, the Empress, you're hoping for abundance. Who isn't? And then we have the Four of Swords here. This is warning you to rest. To rest. I feel like there's a challenge coming up. It is going to break a something that's sort of been stuck for a long time. And it's going to feel like a loss, perhaps, but ultimately it's a rest. It's a pause in the action, so to speak. And this card, the Four of Swords, says you need to make sure you rest and gain your strength back. We have the Strength card. So with rest, you will gain your strength back, and you will be ferocious yet again. Underneath it, we have the Magician. So this is concentrated energy. The five of what are these? Wands. So this is this can be arguments, but it can also be creativity. It's like with change comes creativity. Everybody has an idea. Everybody's got their idea. And the Magician says, focus on your own, I guess, to a certain extent. And then we have the Seven of Swords, but it is upside down. The Seven of Swords, of course, is, somebody maybe is being underhanded. Maybe you're not seeing, somebody's being unfair. But you need to be aware of that. Okay, you need to be aware of that not everybody is well-intentioned. Sag can be pretty optimistic, although they have moved through Scorpio, so they're not foolish. Optimistic, but not foolish. So you know what you're dealing with for the most part. But it does seem like there is a loss coming this month for you, and know that it's just, it's a way for you to free yourself from a situation that perhaps you couldn't find your way through. On the other side of it is rest and rejuvenation. So that's what I see. All right, Sag. I hope this is helpful for you. Like and subscribe. If you would like a reading with me, you can contact me on my website, thesiegeoftransformation.com. I always put that down in the descriptor. So if you're looking, there's a link for that. I am starting a few new class. I just started the second half of my beginners class. That's already happening. but I do have an intermediate class about transits and returns. If you're interested in that, it's a 6-week class, and that's running on consecutive Saturdays from starting on the 29th of January, going into, I believe it goes into March, whatever 6 weeks is, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. So if you're interested, let me know. Intermediate classes, you just need to have a working knowledge of astrology, houses, signs, aspects, planets. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to know when I say, oh, the moon is in the 7th house. You kind of have to know what the moon means and what the 7th house might mean. And then, oh, your moon in Pisces is in the 7th house. You have to know what the Pisces is. So that kind of stuff. But it's not too, it's good for almost any level, as long as you have a working knowledge and you can, to a certain extent, talk the language of astrology. All right, guys, take care. Much love. Namaste. You'll be okay.